Have you ever seen two people engaged in a battle of wits over a game of chess, each trying to outdo each other for victory? Every move is critical, and one mistake could cost them the game. My name is Devin Shaner, and I would like to show you some of the basic movements and strategies involved in this wonderful game. To start out, we can talk about the pieces, how they move, and some basic strategies involved. First is the pawn. This is your front line of defense. There are 8 pieces in total, and they can move up to 2 spaces off the start and 1 additional space from there. So from the starting position, they can move up to 2, 1 if needed, but up to 2, and then every turn thereafter, they can move 1 additional space. As they move forward, they can also attack diagonally. So the next move from the opponent is here. Now, my diagonal movement can then attack the pawn becomes mine, and the turn is to the opponent. Next piece is the rook, also known as the castle. For this example, I will start the piece in the middle. The rook can go up to 7 spaces because the board is 8 spaces long. Can go 3 to the left, 4 to the right, up to 1 backwards in this case because 2 lands me on my own player and I cannot do that. And in this case up to 3 spaces forwards. The 3rd space taking the pawn and turning the turn over to the opponent. Next would be the knight, which is shaped like a horse. There are 2 of these pieces on the board, and they move in the shape of an L. Up to 2 spaces to the right, 1 forwards and backwards. 2 spaces to the left, 1 forwards and backwards. From here I cannot go backwards 2 because it lands me on my own players. Or I can move forward 2 spaces and left or to the right. If there is a pawn here, for this example, I can turn my move over into the left of him because I am not landing on him. The only way I can attack him and land on him is if I'm over here in my 2 spaces here and my 1 to the side. There are always 3 spaces in total, 2 in one direction and then 1 in an alternative direction. The next piece is the bishop. There are also 2 of these on the board, and they move in a diagonal position up to 7 spaces. So in this example, I can go backwards to the right, up to 1, and up to 1 to the left because the second would land me on my own player. And up to the left, up to 3 spaces, and to the right, up to 2 spaces because my second space would then take this pawn and turn the turn over to my opponent. Next is my queen. This is the most versatile piece on the board, combining the movements of both the rook and the bishop. She can move diagonally in any direction from her starting spot, and also left, right, forward, and backwards in a straight line for any direction from her starting spot. Her final position, if landing on another player, will then take out a player and turn the turn over to the opponent. Finally, the most important player is the king. Most people do not move the king out from the back line because they protect it with the players in front and around it, but for this example, I will move him to the center. Once this piece is taken, the game is over, so he is very, very important. He can move from his starting position 1 space in any direction from his starting space. So any spot adjacent to where he is starting, diagonally or across. Now for a few basic strategies. As stated before, your pawns are your front line of defense, but they can also be the front line for offense. You can stagger them in certain positions in order to protect yourself from being attacked, and also defend a few of your players as you move them through the board. It is very important as you develop your skills to become more strategic, trying to think 1 to 2 to 3 to moves ahead in order to outlast your opponent. Your queen is very important, as stated before, and she is normally used mostly to take the other player's pieces. Finally, to discuss the terms of check and checkmate, the player's king and queen versus my queen and rook. If they are set here, I move my rook into this position. They are now in check. My next move can take the king. He can either move the king out of the way or move the queen in the way to save the king. My next move can then be to take the queen or to move out of the way. You must, once in check, you must protect the king in some way. The next term is checkmate. Say I move my rook to the second position. The king cannot move into the second row because I will then take him, so he must move left or right. So he moves to his left. My next move with the queen is to the first row. He is now in checkmate because no matter where the king moves in any adjacent spot, the king can be then taken and you win the game. Now that you know a few basic rules and strategies of the game, you can go out and get yourself your own starter chess set like I have here and enjoy the wonderful game with friends that we know today. Thank you for your time.